Good afternoon. Hello, hello. I've got my tea. We're all ready to go. Hello. Hi, Mitchell. How are you all doing today? Hey, Danny. Hi, Richard. We've got our guest. Hurrah. Hi, Mum. For those who are doing mug checks, today we are, what's on this side? Harking back to the lovely London 2012 games. So we've got our little Olympic mug. Danny's got your tea ready. Lovely. Good to see. Oh, hi, Catherine. How are we doing? Hello from Mum. Hi, Mum. I should say, given that you were all getting very frustrated, as was I, with everything crashing, my darling Mum has bought me a new iPad, which is what I'm using today. So hopefully it won't break down. If it does break down, we'll just blame it on my mum. And if it doesn't, then yay, we'll go from there. But hopefully we're all good. Hi, Chloe. How's everyone today? It's a gorgeous day out there today. Oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. Really, really lovely. I've been out digging in the garden, so I'm a bit scruffy today. Sorry about that. I've my lovely feminist t-shirt on. Nevertheless, she be generated, which is a bit of feminism and Doctor Who all in the same one. So we've got a lovely guest today. Got a lovely guest, my friend Richard, who is already watching, so we're going to get him involved in a minute or two. Just a couple of things. I have just finished updating my website, literally in the last 10 minutes. So now, if you go on there, there is a little link on the front page about how to get to, if you're looking for a global tea break. There's also a page, it's going to be updated. This is the one I'm going to put all the links on. I didn't quite have enough time for that, so I'm going to put that on later. Currently it tells you where the different places you can watch Global Tea Break, and because some people are asking, and it's not something I feel particularly comfortable about, but some people asked if they could donate anything, because of course I'm not making any money, I've not got any income at the minute, so if you want to, there is a link there, but there's absolutely no obligation at all. I probably won't mention it again, but it is there if you want to. Cool, so I'm going to introduce my guest for today. We are on our first Monarch Mondays, and like I say, I think we're going to be here for a while, so we will be going through a variety of different ones. I'm just trying to find him in my list. Are you still there? You still there, Richard? There he is, lovely. I'm going to add you in, colleague, fellow Blue Badge Guide and all-round top egg, Richard Ing. Hello!
Hello!
Hello, welcome!
How are you?
You're being sort of undermined right now by Gary from yesterday, who's actually asking himself, where is that gorgeous cabbie from yesterday? So sorry about that.
Sorry, got me instead. I'll do my best.
So everyone, this is my fabulous colleague Richard, who is popping along to talk about our first monarch, Edward the Confessor, today. So we have gone all the way back to the start of, I mean, we could go back further into kind of the realms of sort of Roman and all that kind of thing, but realistically we're starting at the big date that everyone knows in 1066, or slightly before really, if we're going to be completely honest. Yeah, and so starting with Edward the Confessor and then leading up towards all the monarchs that are going to happen. So, Richard, because when I said I'm going to do Monarch Mondays and you came up and you said, oh, I'll do Edward the Confessor, why Edward the Confessor? What do you like about him?
So I love Edward the Confessor. I don't think he's a king that many people know that much about. When we start talking about him, we start talking about Westminster Abbey, and of course we'll definitely talk about that, because that's we can see physical evidence of him. But he's a bit obscure really when we start going back a little bit further, and he emerges at this time when we've still got this basically almost two-party states, if you like. We've got the Danes kind of in the east of England, and we've got the Saxons in the west of England, and actually Edward really shouldn't ever have been king at all, because it was really his half-brothers that should have reigned for longer, but they decided to start fighting amongst themselves. And one of the reasons I like this particular period of history is because we get these great names emerging. So his half-brothers are Harold Harefoot.
Fantastic.
Again, he's obscure. We could go back to him. And his half-brother is Hardicanute.
Yes.
Hardicanute.
Yes, very famous. Actually, can I stop you quickly, Richard?
Yeah.
Scoot slightly into the middle of the shot a little bit more.
Yeah.
Perfect, that's it, lovely.
I was trying to get my tour guide badge in the background there. It's just over my shoulder there, but I'm not going to fiddle about with it.
Always get the branding in.
Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. So we get this feuding going on between these two, and they basically end up both dying in slightly odd circumstances.
Careless.
And so we get Edward emerging, and I don't know if you're able to show the first little pic there.
I am indeed. Yes, I have checked. They have downloaded. Do you want the seal?
Yeah, the seal. Let's just see the seal. Because there we go. Look at that. Great. So we can just see his face here. So this is from a great seal of Edward the Confessor, and this is our kind of first image of him. But we get a better view because we're going so far back. We've got some coins with Edward the Confessor, but our best view of him is from the famous Burr tapestry, of course.
Yeah, of course. Which is still in Bayeux in France, isn't it?
It is, and before all the current stuff started, there was a story that Monsieur Macron has said that the Bayeux tapestry was going to come for England to be put on show. I don't know what's happened with that. Everything's up in the air. Maybe it'll happen. But you just put up the second image. This is.
Oh, did you want the other one?
No, that's fine. That's terrific. This actually, no. If we can go back, let's just. Why don't we just do one or two very brief facts and figures about Edward, and then we'll perhaps tell the story a bit more.
Let's do it, because he's got some really fantastic stories about him, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
He's an interesting chap.
He born 1004.
Yep.
Born in Islip in Oxfordshire. Now I always think that's quite interesting because there's a nice connection with Westminster Abbey. In Westminster Abbey, there is the Islip Chapel. Now,
there is indeed.
It has nothing to do with the village of Islip. It's named after a senior priest at Westminster Abbey, Dean Islip, who has a famous rebus attached to the chapel there, showing a tree with a body slipping out of the tree and an eye. Islip.
And if anyone doesn't know what a rebus is, it's kind of a sort of medieval, actually older than medieval, really, method of showing somebody how to read something if they couldn't read. So if you had, for example, the town of Oxford, their rebus is an ox, or a cow essentially, crossing a river. So it's where they ford the river. So anyone who couldn't read would be able to look at that image and go, oh right, yeah, Oxford, I've got it. So that's what he did with his Islip. Yeah.
Excellent, but we're getting obscure already, but that's fine. That's the way we go.
That's the way we work, isn't it?
That's the way we go. So let's just do the basic facts. Born in Islip, and he comes to the throne in 1042, and he's crowned in Winchester Cathedral. So he's the last.
My hometown. That's my hometown.
There you go. The last Saxon king to be crowned at Winchester.
Yeah.
So he makes it after his cousin or his half brothers are feuding. He makes it to the top. He gets the top job. And the first thing that we know about Edward, and the most important thing perhaps that we know about him, is how devout he was, how religious he was.
Massively so, right?
Absolutely. And so religious was he, in fact, that he took a vow of chastity. Now, that didn't do wonders for his sex life.
No, but his wife was thrilled.
Well, he gets married, and he marries the daughter of a very important man at this time, a man called Earl Godwin, who also happens to be the father of Harold, who we'll hear about at a later date, but we're just mentioning today, who becomes King Harold. Yeah,
we'll do him next week.
We'll do him later. Okay. So he's an important man, Earl Godwin, and as is the case, very often you're married dynastically, and he marries Edith. And that marriage, must have been a bit of a strange one, because probably never consummated. But
probably not.
Let's go back to Edward. He's very religious, as we've heard. And I suppose we've talked about it already, we've mentioned it already, but the most important thing that he's remembered for is founding and building Westminster Abbey.
It is, which we're very thankful for, because as guides, we go there a lot, and we love it.
We do, and can you stick up that pic, Alex, of the Abbey? Yep. There we go. So this is the picture from the Bayeux tapestry again. So this is the only contemporary image, or roughly contemporary image we have, of Edward's church. So the church was there today, much later, 13th century, but this is this is the church built by the Confessor. And the reason it gets built in the first place is because Edward wants to go on a pilgrimage. Being a devout Roman Catholic, he wants to go on a pilgrimage initially to Rome, but he can't do it. That can't happen. It's all gone wrong back home. It's all quite difficult for him, and he's not in the best of health. So he takes his entire entourage, the entire court, move down to Westminster, the site of the House of Parliament, where the House of Parliament is.
We should say it's the site where it is today as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still there, yeah.
And down he goes there in order to build his great church. And that is what happens. So on the site of a Benedictine monastery that's probably been there for 100 years or so before Edward starts building, and he builds this great church, and there it is. It would have looked very different to the church that we see today. There are little bits of it that are left.
Yeah, so we should point out for anyone who has visited London and visited Westminster Abbey, what you're seeing on the picture here is not the Abbey that you visited. In fact, you can see very clearly on here the arches, which are the Norman or Roman arches of architecture from, well, the kind of 10, 1100s.
Exactly.
And the current church is a newer version. I mean, It's still pretty old. It's still from the 13th century, 1200s. But there is a little bit of this left, isn't there, around the back of the Abbey?
Just a little bit. The Pyx Chamber, which you can go and visit. Fantastic. Gives us an idea of what the church looked like. And, of course, probably the thing that many people have been there will remember, Britain's oldest door. So instead, Britain's oldest door, probably hung, who knows, by one of Edward's workers at the beginning of the 11th century, or middle of the 11th century. So there we go. That's a nice picture of the church. So I thought we'd just. Oh, goodness me!
That's my kitchen. What's happened there?
What's going on there?
There we go.
We've got your kitchen there for a second.
Plenty of eggs if anyone wants an omelette.
Hang on. What's going on here? Sorry about that, everybody. It was all going to. I don't even know what that is. Hang on, let me just sort this out. Go away. No, really. Oh, sorry.
There we go. You did this yesterday on our test as well. I think you just really liked it.
Sorry. Press the wrong button. So a couple of little fun facts for us about Edward. Time's slipping away here so quickly.
Oh, don't worry. Keep going.
Edward, the thing that happens to Edward is about 100 years after he dies, he is made a saint because he is so devout, and he's made a saint, and he's not martyred. Now, this is important, but the important point is that he is ready to be martyred. He's ready to give his life to the church, and about 100 years after he dies, his body is moved into a shrine, slightly different to the one that the picture that Alex has just put up, but that is the shrine today, the only shrine left in England containing the bones of the original saint. Now, the ghoulish fact that I like about this is when he was dug up 100 years after he died, what you did in those days is you wanted to check on the state of the condition of the body to make sure it was intact. So this 100 years he's been in the ground underneath the high altar at Westminster Abbey. He's dug up. It's all done very reverently, and people are very respectful. They prise off the lid and look inside, and there is the body of Edward, now known as Edward the Confessor, perfectly preserved, even down to his long white beard.
Yep.
And that's it. Further proof, as if proof were needed, that Edward is indeed a saint.
And we should say as well, it's not that they preserved his body. Well, as far as we're aware.
No,
I
don't think we know that.
It wasn't kind of any embalming, type thing.
No.
It was just considered a miracle, wasn't it? Really.
Exactly. And as I say, further proof of his holiness.
Yeah.
And so, at the time that his coffin was opened up, on his finger he had a whacking great ring. And the priest in charge at the time that this happened was a man called Gilbert Crispin. Gilbert Crispin, whose tomb, interestingly, you can still find in the cloisters at Westminster Abbey, looked at the ring and thought, I think I better hang on to that because that...
It was a nice bit of bling, really.
Well, it was huge, but a big old sapphire on the ring.
Yeah.
And, of course, he doesn't take it for his own purposes. This is a holy relic. And we've got another pic Alex, if we want to take on. Here we go.
Now,
Now,
point out it's not a photograph.
no, it's not a photograph, but it's a fantastic record of the ring. Because
Great.
let's just, what are we looking at here? This is a famous picture called the Wilton diptych, which you'll find at Westminster Abbey. No, you won't. What am I talking about? You'll find it at the National Gallery. Not at Westminster Abbey. National Gallery is where you'll find it.
I'm cutting you off. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, rubbish. Well, that won't be the first or the last time that happens. And what we're seeing here, you can just about make up. There are four figures. To the right, kneeling down, is the figure of Richard II, the king at the time that this
just
was made.
crown. It's sort of on the bottom right, just kind of below my right here.
Exactly.
Right here.
That's it. Perfect. But the person that we're interested in is immediately to there you go. And that figure in the middle there is Edward the Confessor. So that's another likeness that we have of him. How accurate it is, of course, we don't know. But you'll notice that he's hanging onto that ring.
He is, well, wouldn't you? I mean,
Yeah.
he's definitely showing off his bling right there.
There it is. That fantastic ring that he's holding in his fingers for us to see. Now, the final fun fact, here it comes. The point is, the extraordinary thing is that sapphire has survived down the ages. Absolutely amazing. And somehow it has survived to this day and forms part of the crown jewels.
It does.
So,
And
Alex, here we go.
I'm going to bring the picture up, but I'm just saying like how this is cropping. I don't know if we're going to... can't see any of it.
No.
Anyway, what we're going to do is I will put a little thing on the links page that I'm currently creating, and I'll put a picture up there. But because it is actually in the Queen's crown, and she does wear that crown usually once a year. Not every single year, and whatever, but most years. And it is in that crown.
It is. It's so unfortunately because of the cropping, we can't see it. But just so that you can look for it yourselves, when you get a picture of the imperial state crown, for that is the crown, the imperial state crown. Look in the very top. There's a cross, and right slap bang in the middle of the cross is the sapphire. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit sketchy as to how we know that is the actual sapphire recovered. And I once asked that question of the keeper of the monuments at Westminster Abbey, and he was a bit coy about it. He wasn't able to give me absolute historical accuracy, but he said there is no doubt that is the sapphire. So
he could tell you how he knows, but he'd have to kill you. So
well, who knows? There we go. So that's it. So
there we go.
Kind of,
there's a couple of questions. So a couple of questions from Nigel Runstrom, one of our illustrious colleagues.
Yeah, Nigel, hi.
Did he promise the throne to Billy the Conqueror, or is that fake news? I'm assuming he's referring to William the Conqueror there. I mean, with Nigel, I'm never quite sure. But did he promise the throne to him?
So, as ever, it doesn't surprise me at all that Nigel's come up with a killer question. That is absolutely the killer question. In fact, this is the problem with the Confessor, because before he dies, he promises the throne to at least two different people.
Yeah.
One of them being William the Bastard, Duke of Normandy, and the other to his brother-in-law, Harold. And it might even be the case that he might have entered in some negotiations with the King of Norway as well. It's possible that there were discussions going on there as well. But there is definitely some evidence that he promised the king. He was shipwrecked off the coast of France some years previously, captured, and eventually fell into the hands of William the Duke of Normandy, at which he appears to have extracted a promise from the Confessor to hand on the crown to him when the time came.
And this is kind of where we get the problem arising when Edward the Confessor dies in 1066. You get the problem of two people saying, well, the throne's mine because he said it was mine. Well, and we end up in an almighty
mess. And that is exactly, and this is I think probably the first proper time in English history that we have a situation where there's trouble because a king or queen has not produced legitimate children, or in this case, no children at all.
Yeah.
And we end up with a bun fight. We end up with a huge scrabble for the crown, and of course that leads us eventually, well, not eventually, quite quickly, to the face-off between Harold and William, and I guess that's for next time, Alex.
At the Battle of Hastings. Yeah, we're going to definitely talk a little bit about the Battle of Hastings, because when you talk about Harold, there's not really much else to talk about, is there, apart from the Battle of Hastings?
Well, you'd be surprised.
Well, I know, I'm being a bit mean now, but that is the main thing that everyone knows, and and that's what we'll be looking at. But interestingly, 1066, one of only 2 years in British history where we've had 3 monarchs in the same year. And what we're going to do is I'm going to leave it to everybody on the chat, the guides in particular, who will be able to tell me what the other year was. So 1066, we have, who do we have? We have Edward the Confessor.
Yep.
We then have Harold.
We then have
And we then have
William.
Billy the Conqueror, as Nigel calls him. So we have 3, because Edward the Confessor dies in January of
That's exactly right.
1066.
That's
So
exactly right.
there was one other year where we get 3 monarchs. So I'm going to leave it to the guides to... Miriam Rotte's already come in with cracking answer.
I think there might be another year as well.
Is there?
I think there might be another one, but perhaps we'll leave that hanging.
Well, the guides are already shouting 1936.
Yeah, 1936 is bang on.
And what's the other one?
So I think, do we not have the same, another one happening in 1485?
Well, Sarah Bovell has just said 1483.
1483, I beg your
You
pardon.
might have to fight a bit about that. Who are they?
So we have Edward IV, Edward V, and Richard III.
Do you know what? I stand corrected.
I think that's
stand
right.
corrected.
So well done, 1483. Thank you, Sarah. That's great. Yeah.
There we go.
Well, there we go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
The Confessor.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Richard. You've been great. I'm sure we'll get you back on for something at another point in time.
Lovely.
But for everybody else, thank you so much for watching.
And thank you, Alex.
My
This
pleasure.
has been a fantastic job.
Oh.
Great things to do, and we're all enjoying them. They're brilliant.
Good, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Well, listen, tomorrow it's just back to me. You've got just me tomorrow, so really nobody exciting. It'll just be little me. I'm going to be carrying on our transport theme by talking about red buses tomorrow. Woohoo! And then on Wednesday, we've got our first Women's Wednesday, and I've picked Mary Seacole, just because I love her. So we're going to talk about Mary Seacole. Thursday, I've completely forgotten what we're doing. Oh, yes, we've got our first day of the Great Fire of London chat, where I'm going to be having my fabulous colleague Laura Adams is going to join me, and we're going to do probably 2 days on the Great Fire of London, because I know there's been quite a lot of requests and quite a few people interested in that, so we'll do that. Yeah, and we're going to have a few more guests next week as well.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Bye now.
Thanks everyone for watching. See you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Bye.